In order to silence someone regarding Kimberly Guilfoyle, Fox News paid $4 million in 2018, one of the biggest settlements in its history. Even Roger Ailes' old protege couldn't withstand the frightening charges. Her personal life had previously imploded, though. There was an odd pattern to her marriages. They always ended quickly, as her husbands discovered something particular about her. For years, the same conduct that would eventually drive her out of Fox had been ruining her relationships. What precisely did these men learn that prompted them to flee? On March 9, 1969, Kimberly Ann Guilfoyle was born in San Francisco. Her life started at the meeting point of two powerful cultures. Mercedes, her mother, was a special education teacher from Puerto Rico. Tony, her father, was a 20-year-old Irish immigrant who arrived in America in 1957. While still an Irish citizen, he was drafted into the U.S. Army a year later and served for 4 years. He worked in construction after his military and went on to become a prosperous real estate investor. Growing up, Kimberly witnessed her mother's kindness and her father's hustle. Beginning at age 5, she helped out at the family store in Ennis, while spending the summers in Ireland with family. She learned to work hard and appreciate every chance throughout those formative years. Her family first lived in the Mission District in San Francisco, before moving to Westlake Daly City. When Kimberly turned 10, everything changed. The family was devastated by the loss of her mother, who passed away from leukemia. Their father had to raise them alone because her younger brother Anthony was just 8 years old. Kimberly stepped up and took on duties that shouldn't be left to a youngster. She took care of the house, prepared meals, and even enlisted the assistance of neighbors to buy groceries. Not only was that loss painful, but it also molded her. Her mother was an accomplished writer, cook, and even sewn the clothing they would eventually take to the Indian reservations. Although losing someone like that left a void, it also made Kimberly more self-reliant, determined, and unyielding. It didn't take her long to realize that nobody could save her. She was left to stand alone. Kimberly made a wise decision to assist with tuition while attending UC Davis. She entered the modeling industry. This was more than a side gig. She posed for Victoria's Secret as well as other brands of apparel, swimwear, and even lingerie. Some jobs paid up to $300 per hour. She appeared in bridal magazines and was employed at Macy's. She was astute about the fact that it was serious business. She claimed that the event boosted her self-esteem and taught her how to manage herself under pressure. She made it plain that she never did something that she would later regret, since she knew when to stop. It had nothing to do with celebrity. It was about surviving and pursuing her objectives. Additionally, Kimberly had a strong Catholic background that influenced her throughout her life. She loved debate and leadership while attending Mercy High School, a Catholic all-girls school. The school promoted virtues like diligence, self-control, and religion. These principles persisted even after she married Democratic politician Gavin Newsom. In fact, they gradually distanced her from liberal politics. Her base was her faith. She subsequently claimed that praying aided in her 2020 CO-19 recovery. She was one of the most vocal Catholic voices in conservative politics because of her devotion to the Virgin Mary and her belief in traditional values. Even when her beliefs conflicted with others around her, her upbringing allowed her to see them clearly. Kimberly attended the University of San Francisco School of Law. After earning a political science degree from UC Davis magna cum laude, she worked internships, including one at the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, while balancing modeling and law school. However, she had a rough ascent. Terrence Hallen, the new district attorney, dismissed her from the San Francisco DA's office in 1996 when she was just 27 years old. The public was outraged by the dismissals of 13 other prosecutors. Hallinan was accused of prejudice in a grievance filed by the union. Kimberly even backed the campaign of former D'Arlo Smith, with whom she had worked. It was a gut punch to be fired in that manner so early in her career. It served as a reminder of how quickly political allegiance can change. She had to start over from scratch after being banned from the San Francisco legal scene. After relocating to Los Angeles, she worked on some of the most difficult cases imaginable for the following 4 years at the La District Attorney's Office. She prosecuted cases involving homicide, sexual assault, robbery, arson, and kidnapping. She gave a remarkable performance. Among the honors she received was Prosecutor of the Month. She gained admiration for her adept case preparation and handled pressure like a pro. She was able to hone her skills on a much larger platform thanks to La. The fire in San Francisco had not shattered her, as her time there demonstrated. She was just more resilient as a result. Something unexpected occurred in 2000. She was summoned back to the San Francisco DA's office by Hallinan, the same guy who had fired her. Kamala Harris, who attempted to halt the rehiring, was particularly horrified by this. Claiming to be speaking on behalf of a recruiting committee, Harris allegedly called Kimberly and informed her that there were no openings. Nevertheless, Hallinan rehired Kimberly after learning about the call. The workplace wasn't pleased. A few colleagues were incensed, and the incident revealed the internal politics involved. However, Kimberly's comeback wasn't merely a triumph. It was a declaration. It was hard labor, not favors, that had brought her back. Her story would be characterized by that comeback. Kimberly took on the case that would alter her life in 2002. In a San Francisco apartment corridor, two enormous dogs attacked a woman named Deanne Whipple to death. The Nolan Canola case garnered national attention. Kimberly and James Hammer co-prosecuted the case, and together they were able to convict Marjorie Nuller, the dog's owner, of uncommon secondary murder. It was a landmark decision. They contended that taking the dogs into a public hallway was reckless enough to qualify as murder because they had a history of being violent. TV execs took notice of Kimberly's courtroom performance. After receiving a job offer from Court TV, she abruptly changed her course. She broke into the national media thanks to that trial. The conflict between Kimberly and Kamala Harris was made public in 2003. Kimberly accused Harris of fostering a hostile work atmosphere during the hiring process during her DA candidacy. She described Harris's behavior as cold and dishonest. Although Harris denied it, the dispute leaked to the media. In a public debate, Hallinan even acknowledged that Harris had objected to the hire. The tension persisted, even though Kimberly continued to appreciate Harris' intelligence and skill as a speaker. Two up-and-coming women in politics and the legal field would compete in the ensuing decades. In 1994, Kimberly Guilfoyle met Gavin Newsom at a Democratic fundraiser for California Assemblyman John Burton. Art Gra, an attorney from San Francisco, made the introduction because he believed the two could get along. At the time, Gavin was a young, aspirational politician just beginning to establish himself, and Kimberly was a prosecutor in the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. She later acknowledged that she was immediately taken aback by his height, grace, and charisma. Gavin also never forgot that initial encounter. He kept asking his buddies what had happened to that Lada for years after that. They didn't get back in touch until 5 years later, when Gavin went to Los Angeles and eventually invited her to dinner. The pair was one of the most talked about pairs in California politics by December 2001. They were married on December 8th at the University of San Francisco Street Ignatius Catholic Church. The San Francisco Chronicle named the gathering, which attracted 500 people, the year's most social event. Actor Adner, who was in Rome filming a movie in which he played the Pope, was one of the guests. Gavin, a 34-year-old county supervisor at the time, seemed like a rising star standing next to his new wife, who had recently started working as the district attorney for San Francisco. Kimberly was dressed in white. The city's elite partied until the wee hours of the morning at Anne and Gordon Getty's estate, where the festivities continued. A feature on them in Harper's Bazaar in September 2004 elevated their profile to a new level of notoriety. The two were shown lying together on an elaborate rug at the Getty Mansion. In one of the magazine's glitzy photos of them, the article referred to them as the new Kennedys, highlighting not only their appearance but also their increasing social and political clout. At 36, Gavin had recently been elected mayor and Kimberly was viewed as the ideal political ally. Kimberly talked on their strong trust, while Gavin characterized their marriage as a blend of pride and love. When Gavin took office as mayor on January 8, 2004, Kimberly's responsibilities rapidly grew. She departed for New York 3 days later to start hosting the court television program Both Sides. It was difficult to juggle her profession in new media with her role as First Lady of San Francisco. Flying back and forth between coastlines, she sponsored community projects, represented the city at public events, and attended official engagements. The contradiction of her advancing progressive San Francisco principles while pursuing a career in conservative-leaning media was noted by observers. Her 2-year tenure as First Lady, from 2004 to 2006, was among the shortest in the city's history. The marriage was already strained behind the scenes. Their prenuptial agreement negotiations had been acrimonious before to the wedding, in significant part to shield his political career and his family's fortune from possible scandal. Gavin insisted on a comprehensive prenuptial agreement. Even though Kimberly, an attorney, was aware of the legal justification, she still thought the terms were unromantic and suggested that their relationship was doubtful. It got worse when she decided to go to New York for her court TV job. She had little time for her marriage because the show required her to cover cases and provide legal commentary for hours every day. They suffered greatly as a result of their harsh seaside arrangement, which Gavin eventually acknowledged in public. He also acknowledged that the only thing that saved them was that they were childless because their lives had become so disjointed that they couldn't even have a typical married existence. Distance was only one factor in their differences. Gavin solidified his progressive image in 2004 when he ordered San Francisco clerks to grant marriage licenses to same-sex couples, a move that garnered national attention. In contrast, Kimberly had already established the contacts that would eventually bring her to Fox News and had been a registered Republican. She was establishing a career in a political environment that skewed the other way. While he was receiving accolades for performing gay marriages on the steps of City Hall. Later, Gavin claimed that she had been surrounded by Democrats at one point, but had eventually assimilated completely into Fox's ethos. They found it difficult to move on, even after divorcing. Months after splitting up, they made appearances together at a number of high-profile events in November 2005. Such as Prince Charles and Camilla's trip to San Francisco. They were as perplexed as the public. During the royal visit, Gavin spoke candidly about his marriage to former Mayor Willie Brown, saying, "I have a very confusing life." Kimberly said that anyone observing them could see they still care strongly for each other, but she was unable to say whether they were actually back together. The marriage was formally terminated by February 2006. That month, their divorce was formalized, and Kimberly promptly resumed her professional life. She started hosting The Lineup, a weekend show devoted to crime stories, on Fox News that same February. Despite the show's brief one-year run, it provided her with a nationwide platform and increased her visibility on cable news. She was already well known for taking on high-profile cases, such as the dog mauling trial in 2001. She was also well established as a television personality at this point. When she joined The Five as one of the initial co-hosts in 2011, it was her big break. Since its July 11, 2011 premiere, the show has averaged 2.5 million views, with 510,000 of those viewers falling into the crucial 25-54 age range. It soon rose to prominence as one of Fox's most popular shows, and Kimberly's candid manner earned her one of the network's most identifiable voices. She took on a new position in 2014 when she co-hosted Outnumbered. She made appearances in about 50 episodes over the course of the following 4 years, frequently balancing both shows, while also serving as a guest host on shows including Hannity, Justice with Judge Janine, and Fox and Friends. She even became a famous sight on Fox's New Year's Eve broadcasts from Times Square, where she was a regular on The O'Reilly Factor until its cancellation in 2017, when Fox signed her to a long-term contract deal in June 2017. It demonstrated how important she is to the network. Suzanne Scott, president of programming, described her as a great help to the five. However, the agreement was short-lived. Roger Ailes and Kimberly Guilfoyle had a mentoring for 15 years that went well beyond the typical connection between a manager and employee. At Fox News, she was regarded as his protege and had an impenetrable level of protection. She was a strong supporter of Ailes during the 2016 wave of sexual harassment allegations against him. Guilfoyle referred to him as a wonderful mentor and told reporters she had always been respected. Many at Fox claimed that despite their attempts to terminate her years before she finally left, executives were unable to do so because she knew so much about Ailes' operations. She was the one who knew too much, in their opinion. Guilfoyle acted quickly when Gretchen Carlson filed her shocking complaint against Ailes in July 2016. She became one of his most vocal supporters, calling the charges unbelievable. Together with Beth Ailes, she organized support within the network and even distributed pro-Ailes t-shirts, encouraging women to do so as a show of allegiance. Citing Ailes' track record of appointing women to leadership roles, she informed the media that he was a man who supported women. She allegedly called female coworkers behind the scenes to pressure them into publicly defending him. As the network conducted its internal review, she became the spokesperson for the pro-ask. Her devotion was not universally embraced. Megyn Kelly's refusal to advocate for Ailes was the source of one of the most acrimonious feuds to ever arise. Guilfoyle was enraged by Kelly's silence, which was dictated by her lawyers. According to sources, she felt deceived by Kelly's refusal to support Team Roger and launched a covert smear campaign against her. The Fox offices were filled with stress. Kelly later disclosed that she was unable to defend him since she had been tormented by Ailes 10 years prior. She was effectively forcing a victim to protect her accused abuser, which many saw to be much more troubling than Guilfoyle's attacks on her. It has been said that Guilfoyle found it difficult to adapt to the shifting culture at Fox. Even after Ailes quit in shame that summer, she told coworkers that Janine Pirro, who was 67 at the time, was too old to be on TV, among other offensive and insensitive remarks. By 2017, rumors regarding her actions were more widespread. After a young female assistant, who was hired in 2015, revealed worrisome wrongdoing, Fox launched a year-long inquiry. HR managers started conducting discreet interviews with employees, including hair and makeup artists, who claimed Guilfoyle frequently brought up sexual topics at work and caused them great discomfort. The inquiry turned up much more than trite remarks. In a 42-page draft complaint, her assistant claimed that Guilfoyle frequently showed herself nude and occasionally asked the young woman to comment on how she looked. She allegedly encouraged her to accept sexual favors from influential men, demanded thigh massages, and showed her pictures of the male genitalia of her lovers and partners. Investigators were also told by makeup and hair personnel that they had been subjected to watch the same explicit photos and hear detailed conversations that made working there intolerable. There was enough proof by the summer of 2018 for Fox management to feel compelled to take action. They issued a warning, quit by the end of July, or risk being fired and having the accusations made public. In a subsequent Dominion lawsuit correspondence, Rupert Murdoch acknowledged that he personally demanded her termination for her conduct. Fox made the announcement that Kimberly Guilfoyle was leaving on July 20, 2018. Guilfoyle said she departed to prevent conflicts of interest because of her relationship with Donald Trump Jr. But insiders knew that the truth was far different. The official statement provided no information. One of the biggest sexual harassment settlements in Fox's history was reached behind closed doors, when the network agreed to pay her former assistant at least $4 million in a secret settlement. The young woman was silenced by the deal's stringent non-disclosure clause, which prevented the upsetting information from being revealed in court. She merely stated that she had nothing to share when approached later. The large settlement demonstrated how detrimental Fox thought the case could be to their brand. More testimonies from hair and makeup artists only enhanced the image. They remembered how Guilfoyle would publicly discuss her sexual life and display graphic images at work while verbally abusing support staff. Many felt that it made the network an unsafe place for young women, in addition to being antagonistic. In July 2018, Kimberly Guilfoyle was brutally fired from Fox News. However, she recovered nearly immediately. She joined America First Policies, a super PAC founded to support Donald Trump, just 3 days after being expelled. Given that she had recently been the subject of a year-long internal investigation at Fox that resulted in a $4 million payment to her former assistant over allegations of sexual harassment. It was a startling turnaround. Among the unsettling accusations were claims that she exchanged intimate pictures of men she had dated and exposed herself to employees. She was welcomed into the Trump orbit despite the incident, demonstrating that loyalty was more important than controversy. Given that Fox had signed her to a long-term contract in 2017, the decision to fire her was particularly scathing and demonstrated how swiftly her media empire fell apart. Even more startling was the timing of her personal life. Her relationship with Donald Trump Jr. ended just 2 months before to her departure from Fox. When public in May of 2018, Trump Jr.'s spokesperson immediately secured her a new role in Republican politics by declaring that her presence on the campaign trail was a victory for the whole GOP. After Guilfoyle terminated a previous relationship, the couple had met at a party earlier that year, and they clicked right away. She had previously joined Trump Jr. at rallies for Matt Rosennell in Montana and Ron DeSantis in Florida by July. Her transition as a member of a Republican power couple began with what may have been the end of her career. In January 2020, she was appointed national head of the Trump Victory Finance Committee, further solidifying her position within Trump's inner circle. Under her direction, her program raised over $73 million, and the donor network grew from about 1,000 bundlers to 6,500 in a matter of months. But there was chaos behind the figures. There were allegations of careless spending, the departure of seasoned employees, and even that she had sexually suggestive chats with funders at private fundraisers, which made them uncomfortable. In secret, she was receiving $15,000 a month from Brett Parkell's private business, Parkell's strategy, rather than the campaign itself. Although others were surprised by the strange arrangement, she was safe since she could earn money. Results were more important than reputation in Trump's universe. In 2021 New Year's Eve, Trump Jr. suggested that they conceal their engagement for a whole year before making it public on January 2022 with a sophisticated Instagram post that flaunted her diamond ring. The timing was telling. Guilfoyle helped fund millions for the demonstration and received $60,000 for a 2.5-minute speech, barely weeks after Trump's loss in the 2020 election and the January 6th Capitol riot. She solidified her position as a member of the Trump dynasty during its most difficult time by announcing the engagement at that precise moment. But almost 4 years went by without a wedding, even though marriage was promised. When pictures of Trump Jr. kissing Florida socialite Bettina Anderson during brunch at the Honor Bar in Palm Beach appeared in August 2024, the fissures were made public. Witnesses said Anderson put her hand on his thigh and kissed him repeatedly, displaying open passion. The August images were unquestionably evidence of an affair that had been developing for months, even though the couple had been seen together at the Republican National Convention the month before. Anderson immediately made it apparent that she had no interest in being the other lady. Anderson is the 38-year-old title daughter of Palm Beach businessman Harry Lai Anderson Jr. She insisted that Trump Jr. make a decision. By December, it was clear that his 6-year relationship with Guilfoyle was over when he was publicly holding her hand at her birthday dinner at Buchan Restaurant. Guilfoyle was caught off guard. According to people close to her, she found out about the affair from the same tabloid pictures that the public saw. Trump Jr. made a public post celebrating their anniversary in September 2024, just weeks after the scandal surfaced, and praised her for always being there, no matter what the naysayers threw at us. Unaware that he was already getting set to move on, Guilfoyle replied that he was her soulmate and best friend. Despite her intense anguish behind the scenes, she remained by his side during Trump's election night celebration in November 2024. Later, insiders disclosed that it was all a performance. She never got along with the Trump family. Members reportedly found her flamboyant manner and boisterous nature of put in private. She was older than Don Jr., they added, and has 2 previous marriages. Some thought she was more infatuated with the notion of being a Trump supporter than she was with Don. They thought Anderson was a better fit, however. More like Melania in appearance, younger, more sophisticated, and from a socialite background. None of the Trump family members supported Guilfoyle when the affair was made public. Rather, on December 10, 2024, a day after fresh images of Don Jr. and Anderson surfaced, Donald Trump quickly nominated her as ambassador to Greece. It was clear from the timing that the ambassadorship was a well-thought-out leaving strategy. Although the position gave distinction and a tasteful diversion from family drama, Greece is seen as a non-strategic post far from Washington's center of power. Trump lauded her strong intelligence, broad experience, and leadership in politics, journalism, and the law. From getting dismissed from Fox due to sexual harassment accusations to becoming a leading Trump fundraiser and entering the diplomatic arena. It was an incredible 6-year trip. However, the past continues to haunt her. Her Fox News scandal resurfaced during Senate confirmation hearings for the Greece ambassadorship in July 2025. The accusations made in 2018 presented a concerning image. According to her former assistant, she was coerced into working from Guilfoyle's apartment, where she was shown graphic images, put into awkward sexual situations, and exposed to her boss's nudity. Before Fox paid at least $4 million to settle, one of the biggest sums in the network's history, the assistant had outlined all of this in a draft complaint. Some of the assertions were eventually confirmed by The New Yorker. Polls revealed that 62% of Americans thought such accusations should disqualify nominees, despite Guilfoyle avoiding contentious situations during her hearing. However, since Republicans had a small majority, her confirmation appeared inevitable. The controversy had remained silent for years due to the settlement, which was safeguarded by stringent non-disclosure clauses. Later, Rupert Murdoch acknowledged that he had pushed for her termination due to her inappropriate behavior. The NDAs and her political connections might keep her safe from more serious consequences with her new ambassadorship. Her narrative demonstrates how, given enough time, loyalty, and power behind the scenes, even the most serious professional scandals can be rewritten in Trump's orbit.